When one of my older sisters was 50, when we were sitting at the table, it kind of like came to my thought. There's 7 of us daughters, and it's 1 in 7 Indigenous women that would be raped or murdered. Thinking, which sister? And I said, that's a terrible way to be when you're celebrating a birthday, knowing that this may happen to you or one of your sisters. In which it did.
I just worry about my granddaughters. That's my biggest fear, is them growing up and thinking of the statistics.
Lorraine Whitman, grandmother white sea turtle. Darlene, sitting beside me, is the baby of our family.
Well, Alan, my name is Darlene Peters Copeland. We come from a long line of chiefs.
My name is Marie Sack, and I'm from Sipekne'katik. That's the second largest Mi'kmaq community in Nova Scotia. I work here at Nova Scotia Native Women's Association, and this is where we're at today at the Resiliency Center here in Millbrook.
In 2008, that's when I started working with the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
I know we all have a lot of challenges and barriers in our life because there's been a lot of racism and discrimination.
All across Canada, our women were going missing and murdered, and at a high rate. The cases were just open and closed. That was it. There was never any accountability. The National Inquiry into the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls came to Nova Scotia in 2016 because of the high rate of our Aboriginal women going missing and murdered.
I worked on a national level with the National Inquiry, and there was supposed to be an action plan. The government never did come up with an action plan.
And if we looked at all the women that was missing, what they knew was missing, what was reported, because a lot of our people aren't reporting that they're missing a sister because of the non-help we get.
The rates were being falsified by different organizations, such as the police, saying it was a lower rate than what was out there. When NWAC, which is Native Women of Canada, did their research, the other numbers were not matching up to what really was the rate of our missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. We've had women from here missing and were found somewhere like in Quebec. But the mother and the sisters wanted to be with her. There was no funding for them to go there. My role is to support those families in any way that I can. And then I got to find out about cases of the missing women that were never found or never heard from again. Our women are still being taken and not even known, no closure, nothing. Where are they? Who took them? What happened? Are they alive? There's so many questions. You're telling the mother, have hope, you got to have some hope and faith. But when you're with those families day in and day out, when they're going through their crisis, it affects you. I think since the National Inquiry came here and there was a lot of testimony given by families, we never even realized the numbers of missing and murdered women. It was never the focal point. Since then, I believe there's been a little change, but not enough. Hearing all the testimonies, a lot of them were like brushed off. I've heard testimonies where the families were told they just went off on a drunk binge and they'll come back, don't worry about it, and then close case. Like never a full investigation. It was like our First Nations women were never worth the time or the investigation to the police. I still have struggles today with police stations, with police agencies, going into just introduce myself and what I do. I don't think it'll ever be 100% fixed because we're always going to have racism within, Nova Scotia, anywhere, because we're First Nations.
People will say, you're so resilient. Yes, we were, but it was a survival mode.
We've went through a lot of trauma in our lives. It's not only missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Intergenerational trauma that we're dealing with from residential schools.
5 years I've worked, with the Indian residential school survivors, and that was horrific.
But it was a genocide, and that was, taking the Indian out of the children. It was taking the women, because we're the barriers of our children.
And then right after that, it came the day school survivors, right? Just what I survived as a child. At 5 years old, I had a nun throw me in front of a swing at the time out in the playground. And I got a scar here. I'll wear it for the rest of my life. I woke up and I was in their convent in the kitchen and they were stitching me up. And I lost teeth. And then it's the priest that takes me home and tells my grandfather that, oh, she was misbehaving at school today, so she got in trouble. And she ended up hurting herself. Didn't tell the truth that the sister grabbed me and threw me.
Our language has been taken away.
Well, it was actually beaten out of me. And so I lost my language.
But yet our parents were both fluent, but due to the discrimination, racism, they never spoke it.
I only knew my Mi'kmaq language, but when I go to school, I have to talk a different language that I don't even know. And if I can't talk it, I get beaten. There's so much of our history that's so traumatic. It's going to take generations to heal.
We wanted to see some movement, some action, and we did. We do now have our Resiliency Lodge that's now in Millbrook, and that's a place for women and family to heal.
The National Red Dress Day is it's really important. Majority of the communities through Canada celebrate that. That's an awareness day for our missing and our murdered women.
It's a great day for awareness, to put it out there to all people.
And the red being First Nation. It's so important that we look at it and we understand it.
How's everybody doing today? Good? Today we're going to gather on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people to honor and remember our murder and missing Indigenous women.
I want to remind everybody that we sit in a circle today, and the circles are significant in our culture and our spaces. When we look around the circle in the space, you need to know that we're all related. Our ancestors in the language, Amsitnogama, it means all my relations. We're related to one another. We're related to the earth, the sun, the stars, the grass. We sat for over 28 years without any impact or any justice for my mom, while over 23 people knew what happened to my mother. I'm not going to go into great detail today because I think there's a documentary on Disney called Vow of Silence that will certainly share our pain, our struggles, our quest for that truth. What I want to talk about is solutions. I'm here today because I believe in what this Resiliency Center is doing. Could I have said that over 2 decades ago? Probably not. I wasn't included. Again, because I spoke the truth. And sometimes it's easier to do what we think is safest instead of saying what is right.
When I talked about it during our red dress campaign, I gave the history of the red dress, the meaning of the red dress day, how it came about, you know, with Jamie Black. As an artist, she was trying to think of a way, right? Let's bring awareness. Let's give these families a voice. May 5th is the Red Dress Project or Campaign Day. Asked why she chose the color red, she said, it's a very important sacred color. As Mi'kmaq people, we see the color red as our blood, the color of our skin, our nation, and a woman's ability to give life.
I feel that the more information we give our young people, I think we are moving it forward.
If we're going to reconcile, you know, First Nations with Canada, these events like this are being, people are attending them.
Ask questions. You know, people are afraid to ask questions. And starting with the small children, because they're learning and they're going to be our seniors and elders at one point in time, and they need to know the truth.
Will we ever get reconciliation 100%? No, we never will. But you know what? It's events like this. Those are things that really do bring awareness. You know what, Canada? Open your eyes. Stop pretending it didn't happen. It happened. And all I think we want is acknowledgement. I think the anger comes out because we were never listened to. You know, we were never heard. So of course there's going to be anger. But once it's voiced and the anger comes out, then the reconciliation work can start.
And when they say, you know, time will heal the soul, I don't think time ever really heals the soul. It just gives us tools to deal with that, what we've gone through.
I always say every little change helps, every little change, but it shouldn't take this long. It shouldn't.
If we lose hope, what are we doing for our next generation or the next generation? I always look at it like my grandchildren. I have hope that they will be able to carry on the traditions. They will learn the language. They will understand that being a Mi'kmaq person is an honor.